Welcome. My name is Clayton Ryan. I'm here with Principal Steve Bucci from the Woodward School. And for the next 5 hours, participate. Do our presentation on safe school readiness. The format of the presentation is such where we will be talking about how we got there, our rationale, what we're doing proactively to keep our schools safe, maintaining connections, and then talking briefly about a program that the district adopted back in 2012-2013 in response to a proactive active threat response program. So that's kind of the format. At the very end, we'll have question and answers period, so you'll be more than welcome to ask any questions you have. I'm going to kind of lead the presentation. I've been involved in the ALICE training or safe school training for a number of years, and Steve is going to jump in periodically. He is also trained, but he's new to our district. Trainings are similar, however, they're not. His training is not exclusive to Northern. So safe school readiness. What we do, basically, the rationale is such where we want to maintain a safe and secure school district from the start. The reason being is in loco parentis, or that you're dropping your kids off to us to be in our care, to maintain them to the time that they come home. Part of our task isn't just educating them, it's keeping them safe, it's making them feel secure within our building. That's probably the driving force of why we're doing what we're doing each and every day. In addition to that, there have been a lot of ongoing school safety and security measures within our society, within our schools, from the 1930s, 40s on. Years ago, if you were in school in the 60s and 70s, you probably remember duck and cover. Duck and cover is something that came about in the Cold War when there was the threat of Russia or other nations bombing us. And the response to that threat was they had school children get under their desks and cower. That the material for our school desks would protect them from an atom bomb. Basically, that was the thinking. That was the approach and the mentality up until the 80s and 90s. That we didn't really have a proactive response plan for threats that took place within our schools. We still operated off of that kind of shelter-in-place, lockdown approach. The research that we'll get into in a little bit supports just the opposite, that by locking down, that by sheltering in place, ducking in cover, you're actually putting yourself at greater risk than protection. With everything that has taken place in our society, within our schools, our states, our legislators, our governors have created executive orders. Governor Patrick in 2012, I believe, signed Executive Order 548, which requires all public schools to have and adopt school safety measures and practice those measures on a regular basis. If you have a chance, you can access that on the website. In addition to that, it's not just safety within the school, it's safety within the community. So if you take a look at his executive order, there's strong wording around school safety, but there's also strong wording around community preparedness. So a couple weeks ago in Southborough, you received those alerts from the town, from the fire department around electrical lines down. That basically is part of that in terms of prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. So our approach has threads with fire, with police, and the greater community when we think about having safe facilities within our community. So what makes our schools safe? the essence of what makes our school safe, or any institution safe, is really the connection with staff, connection with the adults. Here, that is our charge. I mentioned that we are parents in your absence. Our connections have to be such where our kids feel secure from the moment they come off the bus till the time that they're in your care. That is our charge. We take pride in that. We also want our students to feel connected with their school, that they want to come to school. We know that the research supports that kids become disenfranchised from school and other institutions when they hit middle school and high school. We don't want that. We want to maintain those connections, the view that they love school and want to be at school for as long as possible. In addition to that, we have clear and high academic and disciplinary expectations for all of our students. We have a high bar. High bar, high expectations maintains that view that that our schools are places where our kids want to be. And of course, we have high levels of parent and community involvement. Last night we had our math night at the high school. It was a huge turnout. We have other events here at the school and throughout the district where we get a lot of parent and community involved.
If I could just speak to some of the partnerships that we have there at the community level. So currently we work hand in hand with Southborough Youth and Family Services. So if we ever have a concern around a student, whether it be social, emotional, or learning, that's someone that we can always reach out to. We're connected to the Southborough Family Partnership is another organization where we can identify these resources that can be of assistance to families who may be struggling with a sensitive issue. And so it's not just here at the school level, but we can be a facilitator for community members. So I just think that the parent community involvement piece is so unique to elementary schools. We have a close connection with families, maybe closer than different school levels, because we're working so closely with young students, and that commitment and that partnership is so important as far as their success. Just wanted to add that piece there.
So the practices and values that make everyone feel secure and safe and valued, we take pride in that. And Steve and I have talked at the beginning of the year about connections, the connections that we talk about with our students and staff, equaling the culture that is maintained within our buildings, and not just at our building level, but across the district. That culture equals the climate. So connections equal culture, what we do day to day, and the culture, the things we do day to day, really result in the climate. And I would say that all of our schools have a very positive climate. People walk in, they see kids smiling, occasionally running down the hall. We want kids to feel excited about being here at school, but it really represents the positive climate and atmosphere within our school. So if you think about our kids and where we're going in terms of safe school readiness, there's been a big push for hardening of schools. So hardening of schools is taking an approach where you do, not necessarily to an extreme, but you focus exclusively on infrastructure, security measures that result in a safe school. Barricading doors or locking doors, multiple security measures. If you pull up the safest school in America, you'll see a great example of a school out in the Midwest that has been hardened. They have a response system that kicks in that is, almost like a gas-like thing that comes down if an intruder is in the building. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in infrastructure to keep the school safe. That can help, but it will never eliminate the possibility of something happening. We don't want our schools to be prison-like or to be so barricaded or locked that they don't represent that excitement that our students feel when they get off the bus. And some schools are getting that way. Of course we have to do things like maintaining locks, IDs. Those are the subtle things that we can do to maintain safety at a realistic, balanced level that keep our kids safe, that add security measures in a realistic way. So we don't want to get to the point as a district where we're hardening our schools to the point where they're infrastructure-like or prison-like. We don't want them. We want our kids to feel safe and secure, because if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of need, it really starts at the physiological level, their needs being met, having breakfast, coming in, and then feeling safe and secure and attached to the people and the environments that they're part of each and every day. And then from that point, if those needs, their hierarchy of needs is met, they will get to the point of being available to learn. You've probably heard of kids that don't have that sense of security, be it emotional security or physical security, and they're just not available to learn. We take pride in the fact that our kids feel safe, emotionally and physically secure, and they're available to learn. So some existing school safety initiatives that we're taking part of, that other districts are taking part in as well, and we take pride in the fact that our buildings, our grounds are well maintained, building access is controlled, and our visitors are monitored. We all have badges, we all have lanyards, we all have very specific access points within our buildings, front entrance only. You come in, you check in, you get a visitor badge, you put down where you're going. Our secretaries, myself, other staff members know where you're going. Those things are monitored. Our students feel safe reporting things that go on. Part of our programming and part of the ALICE programming that we've adopted requires our students to be active participants within monitoring what goes on in our school. Not that they're the point people, but if they see someone, a visitor, an adult in the building that doesn't have a lanyard, that doesn't have a visitor badge, or that they're concerned about, they feel comfortable going to a trusted adult, their teacher, or someone else and reporting them. We want them to have a voice. We want them to be disciplinary and safety problems are quickly and appropriately addressed. We address all things that go on within our school to keep our kids safe. Issues of bullying, issues of threats, kids getting off the bus that are sad for any reason, we respond to them. We have a strong collaborative relationship with our Southborough Police. Superintendent Johnson, who was in the audience, sent out a message not too long ago talking about our police involvement and the fact that you may see police cruisers in front of our buildings, and that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an issue. That means that they're here. We want them here. Yesterday we had a firefighter here talking about fire safety. We have Miss Kevin Landry here on occasion talking to the kids about stranger danger and other things. We want that collaboration. We want kids to feel connected to the police and fire. And in addition to that, we regularly have fire drills, medical response procedures, and of course our ALICE training on a regular basis. We do fire drills probably 3 to 4 times a year. Our ALICE drills are similar, and then what we've done with collaboration with the town are medical response procedures and emergency preparedness response training. So the scenario might be gas leak on the Mass Pike. What would the school do, the town do? Those are facilitated by all the key people within the community.
And these are regular topics at staff meetings. So this is not just a one and done type of, check the box training, but it's something that's happening at staff meetings throughout the course of the year. When Mr. Ryan and I, along with Superintendent Johnson, had met with the other Southborough principals, we had come up with some maybe changes to some of the safety protocols, and then those were immediately spoken about at the staff meeting. So this is regular and ongoing training to make sure that everyone's on the same page. It's just part of what we do, really.
So ALICE. Everybody has probably heard of ALICE. Several years ago, ALICE was a big topic on the media. News channels had clips of ALICE procedures. ALICE came about from a police officer in Texas probably 15 years ago. And it was basically in response to the procedures that were in place that I talked about earlier, duck and cover. Right? duck and cover is counterproductive to keeping and maintaining us safe and our students safe. He studied cases, Columbine, the September 11th stuff that went on, other Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, and really came about with an approach that's proactive to any kind of active threat scenario within our schools. I'm going to speak to the ALICE procedure in a minute. But ALICE is also vetted by the Department of Homeland Security, International Chiefs of Police, NYPD, and most importantly, Southborough and Northborough Police. They were an active part of our adoption and our implementation and training early on, and they still are.
And the police officer that Mr. Ryan referenced, his wife was actually a school teacher, and he had asked her, what are your procedures? You know, how do you respond to active threats inside the building? And I think he was floored with just the fact that so many schools would just sit and wait for help to come instead of empowering their teachers. So that was another, he was part of a SWAT team and kind of took that approach as far as responding in an active manner.
So what is ALICE? ALICE is basically just an acronym. It's not a sequential program in terms of starting with A, moving down chronologically to E. It's an acronym that represents a proactive approach to a threat-specific situation. It's a life skill that we're teaching our students that we hope that you will look into after this presentation that can help you in life. We know as a society that the issues that are taking place, these threat-specific incidents that are occurring, are not limited to our schools. They happen in theaters. They happen in shopping malls. They happen in churches. They happen in other areas of our society. And ALICE is a proactive approach to keeping yourself and others safe if ever you are presented with a threat-specific situation. The A for ALICE is alert. Years ago, we had codes within our schools where something happened, we would say, code red. We'd get on the walkie-talkie, code red. This is what staff would be trained to do. After our training, after studying codes within schools, people realized that codes are really, they're helpful on some level, but they're not helpful for everyone in the building. If you heard code red here in the school, you wouldn't really know what to do, right? So A for alert with ALICE is mean that you have information that's conveyed to you, or we convey information in real time that is accurate and plain as possible, describing the threat-specific situation that's occurring. An example is, engage the ALICE protocol immediately. There's an intruder in the main lobby of the school, and he's headed for the gym. He has on a black jacket and a blue baseball cap. Again, engage ALICE protocol immediately. Very clear, very direct, descriptive in terms of where the threat is. With that information, our staff, our kids, can decide what is their best response given the information that they hear. No codes, no convoluted language. It's as direct and descriptive as possible. In addition to that, we want our information to flow in all directions. PA system, everybody in the building hears it. People outside on the playground hear it. We want that information to hit everyone. And then we use all available means possible to communicate. So if we're in the cafeteria and a situation comes up and we hear it here, we don't have access to the walkie-talkie, we yell, we scream, we get down the hallway, we communicate with any means possible to get that information out. The L for ALICE is locked in, and our doors are locked all the time. If there were to be a threat-specific situation, our staff, based on the information that they heard, based on the information that's conveyed, have the option of locking down, which would mean they would pull their door closed and lock down. That's based on the information that they hear. It's a semi-secure starting point, but it's not the end-all be-all. A lock is basically just a deterrent. Steve and I were talking about this yesterday. A mild deterrent for someone who has intent and the means to come into a building or a classroom. But it's a good start. From that point, decisions are made either to continue to secure within that environment or to evacuate based on the threat, based on the information that they hear. If they decide to continue to secure their environment, they will enact an enhanced lockdown or barricade procedure. All of our staff are trained in how to enhance their locked doors in a manner that would significantly deter someone from coming into their classroom or their environment. I is basically to inform. So from the point of a threat-specific scenario, information still needs to be conveyed. We still need that information. So if we were part of a threat scenario, we realize the threat is no longer here, but we're fine, we would continue to flow that information to the people within our building. The person is no longer in the cafeteria, they have moved down to the extended day door, keep that information flowing. Or conversely, the threat, there is no longer a threat, the police are here, they've apprehended the person. So that information is crucial. It's not just one and done. We do it throughout the entire incident that's taking place. Again, plain language. We always want to convey the who, what, where, how things are happening, and that's going to maximize the decision making of the adults in the environment. C is probably the most promoted or publicized aspect of ALICE, counter. Okay? You probably saw clips on the news where kids or young adults would take items and throw them at an intruder who entered a classroom or an environment. That is a last resort. That is a last resort because we want to get as far away from the source of the threat as possible. We do not want to challenge a threat. We want to be away from the threat. If the threat is over by the extended day door, we want to be over by the gym, as far away as possible to maintain safety. However, if it came to a situation where the threat was imminent in being maintained within an environment, you may want to counter. We don't advocate that or train our students to counter within our environment at the elementary or upper elementary, middle school level. That's something that may happen at the high school or in other schools, but that's not something that we train our kids to do. We don't want our preschoolers running at someone, an adult, trying to tackle them. That's not what we do. We have our students follow the adult's lead. However, if you do have kids that are in the upper grades, middle school, high school, this is an important part of ALICE. And I say that because ALICE's whole approach is empowerment. That you have an opportunity to protect yourselves and others if you're faced with a threat situation. So countering doesn't necessarily mean charging. If I was a high school student and there was a threat in my immediate area, I may just take something, whatever I have, and if Steve was the threat, and use that to throw and distract, to give me more time to run away. So counter isn't just charging or approaching the threat of the individual. It can be used, there's a number of different things that can be used. And E for Evacuate, that's probably the greatest focus of Alice for our staff. When they go through our training, when we do our drills throughout the year, they're always thinking about evacuation. They're always thinking about getting away from the source of their threat, where they can go to be safe. We have designated areas within our schools, within our community, where kids are trained to go. We do not disclose those to the public. That's for our kids and for our staff to be aware for their training. If they do decide to evacuate, if the intruder is inside, we want our staff and students to get outside. We want them to be a unfirmed target. We want them to run in a zigzag pattern with their adults to a safe destination. And if they're ever alone, we have trained them to find the safest adult, run to the safest location that you can that is away from the threat. So they hear something taking place at extended day area, they know that the gym or areas away from that are a safe place to go for evacuation. In addition to that, our police in our district has determined the rallying and reunification points for each school. All right, so some key points to remember. The ALICE program does not follow a set sequence of action steps. It's basically just an acronym for a proactive approach if an active intruder or a threat-specific scenario were to take place within our school or within the community. The ALICE program, our Safe School Readiness procedures, are all about empowering the individual. We have moved away from the duck and cover, shelter in place approach to responding to threats. It's all about empowerment. It's all about decision making. It's all about our staff and our kids making the best decision they can given the real information they have at the moment. Individuals could use one part of the ALICE acronym or all 5 parts. It's really contingent upon the threat-specific scenario that's taking place.